First win as a Manchester United manager. It didn't come easy, but in the end it's 3 points. Takes them up the Europa League table. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we, Mark Ogden. Let's start with Jan Åge Fjørtoft, shall we? Jan, obviously you had a horse in this race. Bodo Glimt, Norwegian side, did well in the first half. That goal just before the break proved to be decisive. United get the win, but considering the quality of the opposition, did we really learn that much today?
Well, first of all, Bodo Glimt comes from North Norway. It's not far from where Santa Claus lives. And they give 2 goals away at Old Trafford. I mean, that is...
I see what he did there. Hey,
so, yeah, link. You see what I did there. But,
yes.
Having said that, they got early goals. They did the same at Ipswich. And then they kind of got it away. I don't think we have learned a lot over the 2 games from Manchester United. Got a point at Ipswich, beating Bodo Glimt at home, a Bodo Glimt team that rotated their team because they got the title decider this weekend. Just tell you the fact here. So I think that when you played with 3 at the back, you saw that second goal, you saw the vulnerability. Yeah, thank you for helping me out with that word. But you see how hurtful that can be when you play 3 at the back and you just chip the ball over there. And Malaysia having tempo trouble at that moment. Having said that, I must say the goal from Højlund, where he used 2 touches, that was a brilliant goal. And 2 goals from him can help him for confidence, and it can also help Manchester United going into the harder games against Everton at home this weekend.
Obviously, Mark, we're desperate to jump to conclude. What have we learned from these first 2 games? But it's fair to say not too much. Is that fair?
Well, I don't think we've learned too much, but I think Ruben Amorim will have learned a lot about the players that he's got at his disposal, and it'll have confirmed what he already probably feared, is in the sense that the players he's got aren't good enough. He's got 1 or 2 good players, but I think, he's given players a chance. Tyrell Malacia's not played for 18 months. He had a game tonight. I think it's probably unfair to judge him, considering he's not played for so long. But, Mason Mount had a game. He's put Bruno Fernandes in midfield. I think this is what Amorim's doing. He's trying to look at the players he's got and trying to find out who's suitable for his system, who can survive in his squad, and how he can progress. Now, what he said at the weekend was that he's going to be playing teams and resting players because he wants players to spend more time on the training ground than on the pitch. But United are playing 2 games a week, so they need to find a way to play the games as well as train. But he's trying to coach his players and work out how they can fit into his system. So he will have learnt a lot. I think the players will have learnt a lot from Amorim as well. But I think people like ourselves who've watched United a lot over recent years will look at this and think, well, this is what we already expected. We knew that these players have let down previous managers and they won't succeed under Amorim. But I think he has to realise that by giving them a chance. He's given them a chance tonight, and some have let him down, and some have performed. Højlund scored 2 goals. That's good for his confidence. He might think that Højlund's a player there that he can get the best out of. But I think from Amorim's perspective, he'll think, something, I've got a lot of players to get rid of here, and I've got a lot of players to replace.
Well, but you say they've let down previous managers, Augie, but most of those players, or a lot of those players, came in under the previous manager. Whether he had his paw prints over them all or not, doesn't matter. He was the man in charge when most of these players come in. Obviously, Ruben Amorim has had no say in any of them, so he's just been handed this lot and been told, probably, I don't know what he's been told about January. Obviously, there'll be a lot of changes in the summer, but he's just been told, you're going to have to get on with it. So he's in a position of trying to figure out how he can get this group of players to the best position, particularly in the league, between now and the end of the season. What do we know? We know De Ligt can't run. He's not the quickest. Those balls over the top, if the left-sided centre-back gets caught out, then he struggles to get across and help because of his mobility. We know Højlund was in the goals tonight, but we know that they struggle in that position in terms of having quality front men. We saw Anthony in the side tonight, but that won't last, particularly as a sort of attacking wing-back.
I didn't even know Mount was playing today. We watched the game.
Well, we were watching both games, but Mason Mount, there is a good player in there, but is there the player that they pushed so hard for and spent quite a lot of money on? I have my reservations about that. But yeah, he's just trying to figure out, right, who can I use to get the best results, clearly, in the short term until we can get the reinforcements that I want in or the recruitment team want. And that's basically what he's trying to figure out. They play Everton at the weekend, and then it's Arsenal in the midweek round of fixtures. Then he's going to get a real feeling about where he is with some of these players.
Looking at January, Mark, You tell us there isn't a lot of money to spend. Is it just a write-off? Is it just silly of us to speculate at all if anyone new's coming in because they just don't have the finances to do that?
Well, yeah, pretty much it's not going to happen unless they can get somebody out. And we know that you don't really get big deals in January. So who could United let go that would raise enough money for them to invest in the squad? Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Alejandro Garnacho. Well, realistically, none of those are going to leave in January. They might not even leave next summer, but they're the only players that they can actually raise a significant, sum of money for. Now, in terms of bringing people in, there are quite a few players that are out of contract across Europe next summer that have got 6 months left on their contract that they could maybe think, well, let's try and get one of those players that's got 6 months on his contract at his current club. It might be an attractive proposition to them to sign for Man United. It'll be an attractive proposition for the selling club to actually get some money in. But that's the market they're looking at. It's not ideal, but it's not an ideal market. But equally, if you said to Ruben Amorim, right, you've got a blank sheet of paper, any of those players in that Man United team sheet tonight, would you have in your blank sheet of paper if you could start a list of ideal targets? Probably not. I don't think any of those players in that team, he would think, you know something, I think there's a player there. Even Bruno Fernandes, he's 30 years old and I'm not quite sure where he fits into his system. He's not a midfielder. He doesn't really seem to fit in the front three. And you could make the same case for Marcus Rashford and even Alejandro Garnacho. I'm not quite sure where these players fit in. So they're going to have a big conversation at United, a big discussion about, are they brave enough to do what Liverpool did with Felipe Coutinho a few years ago and say, right, yes, they're our biggest players, but they've got to go to bring some money and to get some other people in. And I'm not sure they're at that stage yet. And I'm not, obviously, neither Rashford, Garnacho or Fernandes is going to raise the money that Coutinho got for Liverpool. But I think that's the point where they're at now, whereby United have got financial difficulties in the sense that they haven't got a lot of money to spend. So they might have to look at getting rid of one of their, like I say, more saleable assets. But
yeah, but who's
I don't think
buying
any player
Rashford,
leaving United would hurt. Well, this is it. This is what I'm saying. I don't think anyone that would leave would hurt the club in terms of leaving them. And come to buying them, well, you're right. Who would take Marcus Rashford with, 3 years left on a massive contract? Nobody. Who would take Bruno Fernandes with 4 years left on a massive contract? Nobody. Garnacho may be, he's a young kid that's got potential, but he's not ready for Real Madrid yet. He's not ready for Barcelona. So, again, who's going to take these players? So, United's problem is that they need players in, but they haven't got anyone they can get rid of to raise the funds to get them in. So they're in a real situation. All that has to happen is Ruben Amorim has to get his players fitter. That's the basic. They're not fit enough. He has to get them fitter. And he has to find a way to get more out of them. But there's some players you can't get fitter. You're not going to get Casemiro or Christian Eriksen fitter now. They're just not going to get fitter. So it's a real difficult challenge. But, I do think he's got the presence and personality to make this job a success, but not with this group of players.
Wherever you are in the world, a new coach is going to come in and get them fitter.
Yeah.
That's it.
No ketchup at the training ground.
No ketchup, no fries, no salt.
But I just think that we're talking a lot about money. There is another currency here, and that is time. There is no chance that he can fix this season. You have to be realistic. No. Manchester United wouldn't do that. Another brand, another company, if this was proper business, if this was a commercial deal, they would say, well, next summer we start. And then we go back to what we discussed before. So this is the club that are so doubtful they won't sign a new manager in the summer after the FA Cup win. So they're having interviews all summer. And then you take in a developing coach that will develop into something great. And I'm with Mark. I think Amorim right now is the best signing. But then they spent all the money with the coach that they were doubting to have there. So they spend all the money on players that doesn't fit to the manager they put in November. Oh, thank God this was not Glazer, because then there will be some new scarves, yellow and green out all over Old Trafford, by the way. And now Amorim is standing there. He has the presence, he has the idea, he has the age, he has the energy. But you have to be realistic. Manchester United won't be there at least before next summer, because in January, when we see the transfer market, even if they had money, and apparently they haven't, they won't get any new players in that could make them better.
It is true, and we have discussed this. It was an absolute bonkers strategy to spend, I think, $200 million in the summer with a manager who we all knew was a dead man walking. Right? They knew it, but they still did it. Which, and Jan's right. It was, and we've talked about this. It was a strategy that said, currently, we have no more idea than the Glazers and the Ed Woodwards and all that, John Murtaugh and all that sort of era. It was the exact same thing. In fact, it was probably worse. It was probably worse because it was staring them in the face, and yet they've gone out and done it. So absolutely, and you're right. Who would you want to buy from this Man United team?
No.
I mean,
like Mark said, Garnacho is a potential. I think you're running out of names after that.
Yeah, but not paying big money.
No
way. And Marcus Rashford. I mean, who's going to pay? Who's going to? We had a discussion. Who was the guy? Martial. We had a discussion about Martial a year or two ago with another colleague, and we were talking about, oh, well, they might get 50 or 60 million for Martial, and I'm sitting going, 50 or 60 million for Martial? You're lucky if you get 5. In fact, you're lucky if you get 500,000. I mean, seriously, they have a bunch of people that no club worth their salt really wants, apart from some of the younger players. I'm not, and Augie's right, I'm not shoehorning the younger players in. I'm talking about high-earning, big-costing senior players. They are absolutely stuck with them because nobody, trust me, nobody is buying them.
Typical ESPN FC. Manchester United win, they're still so negative.